to realign that within myself is the most rewarding feeling. I love it. I teach myself all the time. How am I going to do it? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's happening. It's like it already knows. The parts of me from which I have been shut down, those decoded parts, those parts I can't decode, those parts I can't connect with, deliberately at the moment, they already know everything. They already know what I am in high dimensional frequency bands. They already know full correspondence to the Creator. They already know what I am. But I'm disassociated from that because I've given my allegiance to some other vain imagination, some other energy form that's come in, through programming, through other different, I suppose, techniques that I call these guys, parts of consciousness that have disconnected from God's source and refuse to go there, to realign with God. They want to keep on with their own agenda because they have found that they can control other parts of creation by implanting mind technology into the innocence of other race lines. But it seems to be we lose our innocence. If we don't lose our innocence and find our strength in the midst of the turmoil, we're going to, what are you going to do? You're going to be the innocent ones plundered. But, there are energy streams that come into your mind that are not from God. And they're planted in us through generations. In other words, the ancestors that seeded the genetics of our structure have encoded in subatomic particles within the atomic structure of our body, like a remote control. It's like, how you use a remote control to change the channels on the television. Well, they have got sensors inside of our structure that are hooked into, you might say, their culture, and their culture is in a separation from God, and they have put their connections within us so that they can control the energetic substance of our being and spin certain parts of the electron field, protons, neutrons, different other muons, neons, klingons, and all the rest of those things are in there, and they can actually spin those off into their own, their own fields to revitalise themselves to some degree. And you might say, well, that's crazy. Fancy thinking that. That's only the illusion. Well, of course it's the illusion, but something influenced your mind so that you would buy into the illusion, right? Even though it was your own idea originally, we've all fallen away from it, but we're perpetuating it. We're sharing misinformation continuously, and we're teaching our children, the offspring. We're teaching the world. We're expressing, all of this rubbish that's been in our templates for eons. We're continually doing it until we stop it. Stop it. Don't do it anymore. Fix yourself up. Do something about it. And so that's where I'm at. I love it. And even though it's all illusion, it's all a fabrication of mind. It's totally worthless thoughts, but we're currently entertaining them and perpetuating them, extending them, proliferating them. And we can disconnect from them because we're going to find them within ourselves. We're going to look within the atomic structure and the gateways of our mind, and we're going to use the mind of Christ to do it, because that whole mind can come in and we bring the darkness to the light. We're going to say, oh look, these thoughts are what I had. I used to like them because they were given to me, or I found them, or I created them, or invented them, or something. But they've been here, and now I don't want them. How can I change the structure of my template to project or emanate and radiate the glory that I truly want to experience? And so you're going to bring all those dark thought forms that are stored down there in your biological computer as dark, unregenerated light images of thought, of structures that just crazy. And you're going to say, I don't want it. And the moment you don't want it, the Christ that you are will say, well, what do you want? Well, I want what you got. I want what you got, And so, okay, you want that. Well, get rid of that. Don't hang on to it. Don't value it. Get rid of it, and it'll dissolve in the fire of high frequency as you choose again to use the mind that is connected to God, and you'll dissolve those dark light structures that have been in polarization, that still perpetuate themselves in the matrices of the morphogenetic field. I mean, they all have an offspring, like creatures that are in separation from God's source, still produce after their own kind, every seed produces after its own kind an offspring of itself, even though it's in a state of decay. But if you're going to be an offspring of the living God, you won't be in a state of decay, and you're going to have to look at things another way. So that's what I love talking about. I just love it, And I'm always teaching myself. I'm always teaching myself because, who else can I teach? You are me. If I say something to you and you say, "Wow, oh, that's good," I'll do it myself. Well, you'll be teaching yourself, but there's only one of us really, and we're all sharing the same mind with God. I mean, God doesn't share in your vain imaginations. I mean, He knows nothing about it. God doesn't know what you're imagining down here. Got no idea what you're imagining and trying to perpetuate down here, He wouldn't have a clue. And so you're trying to make it real for yourself, and you're trying to share that information with someone else so they'd buy into it and strengthen you, So here's an idea I got. I'm not going to tell God because, He doesn't know anything about it anyway. It's like, but I'm going to tell you, and if you buy into my idea, we'll strengthen that idea. And if we get enough members together to join in with this new idea of separation from God, and we can survive without God, maybe maybe we'll do it. But of course it never will, because if you're separated from God, there's no life. You need the joining into the matrices beyond space-time to get the perpetual life flows through the integration of the circuitry, of the integrity, of the entirety to sustain life. And you can't do it in separation. And, I talk about these things because I'm doing it for myself. I want to do it for me, It's like, I don't want to be disconnected in my mind any longer. And, so it's just a structure of the consciousness. And when we look at the genetic coding, I was saying earlier about where we came from in the illusion of separation and how the vain imaginations have been passed genetically down through the corridors of time. When we incarnate this living Christ, or the word of truth, or the divine alignment and divine right timing back into the constructs of our own anatomy and the many parts of our anatomy that are separated from God, stepped down, when we shine that living light structure and restructuring, converting agency back through all the corridors of time, we're actually affecting the generations that brought us here. And I said the other day about time travelling, how I travelled in time back down to many space-time locations, and I was teaching a different message. Well, one of the things I learned from Jesus, actually, because I was reading the Bible, and there's a few places in the Bible where it says, make known to the powers and principalities and rulers of the darkness the manifest wisdom of God. Well, the manifest wisdom of God is Christ manifest. In other words, one has done it. He's manifest the wisdom and the knowledge and understanding, the truth, and He's transcended the limitations of the world. So make known to the powers, the rulers, the principalities, all of the governors of this dark world, make known to them the manifest wisdom. So in other words, speak down the corridors of time and tell them, hey, you guys, you're perpetuating the error, but if you want that part of consciousness that you are to evolve into the living cycles of perpetual life, eternal life, here's a good thing to do. Let the dead bury their own dead. In other words, don't listen to the voices in your head from the world around you, or the carnal commands. Carnal commands mean the flesh mentality. Don't let the words of dead men resonate in your head again, but set your mind on the Spirit and let the voice of the living one come forth and overwrite the corruptions of your program, of the programming of your mind. So if we were to make known to all parts of consciousness that we have had association with in any space-time continuum, past, future, present, hey, you guys, here's the principle of life. Start doing it and practice it. And then you will contribute into the healing of the mind. You see, now I found that to be quite wonderful because it may seem crazy to a lot of people, but when I heard Jesus say that, I was in the church at the time, and the Christian church, and I was very enthusiastic. I was doing a lot of things, and I got involved in a few ministries there. Like I had a beautiful men's group running. We had about 10 or 12 guys every Friday night, and we'd do our prayers and things and communion and everything else. We'd do all the rituals of the church structure, And I was teaching in schools with little children, young ones. I was teaching things and going there every week. Had 4 or 5 classes, and I had a healing ministry on the internet, like through ICQ, and now I'm on Paltalk, and I was